Hey everyone, Mustafa here with my buddy Jas, and we are gonna get full on into spoilers with Batman v Superman.
Batman dies. Actually, Superman dies. Which one is it? Can we just talk about that right off the bat?
Yeah, sure, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
I'm not kidding. Superman dies. This is a spoiler video, so if that was spoiled for you, you've been warned and it's on you. But yeah, he dies. But does he? What do you think?
Yes, I do think he died, but I don't think he's dead. That last shot with like the dirt like rising a little bit from the casket, I think that was him, I don't know, rebirthing, whatever. There is a comic that's called The Death of Superman.
Was that their whole premise? Like, because technically...
That end, yes.
Yeah.
Death of Superman, I got this book for Christmas one year from my mom. So my mom must think that I'm a Superman fan, which usually I'm not. I'm not the biggest Superman fan. Everybody who's been watching my videos up to this point, you probably realize that. But, that being said, so that one year she got me Death of Superman, and I read it, and I really liked it because throughout this entire book, he's just constantly getting his butt kicked. Throughout the entire book, so it was great in that. But, this movie definitely grabbed from that book, which I wasn't expecting at all. Like, I knew Doomsday was going to be in this movie just because they already showed it in that second trailer.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they followed that book. That book, Doomsday comes, he beats crap out of Superman, and they both end up killing each other at the end.
Right.
And the only thing that was different about the book and the movie was that, yes, the book was longer, and Batman and Wonder Woman are not in the book.
Oh, so they kind of just merged the whole Batman vs Superman and the Death of Superman.
Yeah.
So I didn't read that one.
As far as Doomsday goes in general, I feel like they really should have waited for Doomsday. I feel like Doomsday is more of a Superman villain. It's one of Superman's biggest villains, most notorious villains.
Yeah.
And I feel like they should have saved him for a solo Superman movie.
Yeah.
And what I think they should have done instead was Lex Luthor played a big role in this movie, and just like creating Doomsday. I feel like they could have, instead of having Doomsday, it could have been Lex. He finds a way with General Zod's body and the alien spaceship to get Kryptonian-like powers, or like just temporarily.
Yeah.
And they take him out. They don't kill him, but they take him out. They like depower him and send him to prison, and I feel like that could have been a more effective way to not only use that character and Jesse Eisenberg as an actor more in your movie, but then you don't have to shoehorn Doomsday in as well. You can save him for another movie. You can save him for a solo Superman movie.
Right.
That was my thoughts during that whole end scene. I was like, why didn't they just have Lex Luthor play that part?
Right.
Him be the big bad guy that all of a sudden he's got all this power that they need to take out.
Right.
And I feel like they could have done it that way. The nuke part was interesting to me.
That was cool.
Because they
cool.
took some of that from The Dark Knight Returns. In that book, when Batman and Superman fight at the end, Superman's already weakened because of nukes. This book was written, it came out in 1986.
Yeah, it's an old one. This is kind of like when it started, right? The saga of Batman vs.
Yeah. And it takes place around like the Cold War. So in the book, like, U.S. is at war with the Russians. Superman's under, like, the president's orders. He's fighting with, like, the Americans. Russians fire off nukes. He destroys the nukes, and the nukes are what initially weakens him. The kryptonite was pretty much, like, the killing blow for Superman in the book. He doesn't kill him, but after he's exposed to kryptonite, then you're actually seeing the punches, like, landing.
Right.
And in this book, like, his face is like all like swollen and beat up and like just bloody because Batman's like beating him to a pulp. So like the nuke part, and when he was all like skinny up in space, that's what happens in the book after he takes out the nuke. He's all like skinny and skeletal like, and the sun is what gives him his powers back.
Yeah. I thought they had focused, like, have a scene with the sun empowering him.
Yeah.
In space. I was surprised that wasn't in there, but probably.
They showed it a little bit.
Yeah.
They showed it a little bit. I think they showed that enough. Let's talk about the beginning of the movie.
Best part.
So in the title sequence, they had pretty much like the Batman origin. I feel like they didn't really need it, but at the same time, it worked to an extent. I liked that they used Jeffrey Dean Morgan to play Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's dad. However, the whole thing with Martha it made sense later on in the movie why he would just say Martha and then die. But I liked it better in Batman Begins when he was talking with Bruce a little bit before he died, like saying like it's okay, you know.
Sure.
It was kind of like, hey, we just died in front of our kid, and I'm only worried about my wife as opposed to my son, you know.
Yeah.
I had a little issue with that.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
And the part where he's like down in the cave, and he started to float.
That scared me. That
I was
really
like,
scared me.
I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? And then we find out that it's just like a dream, and I was like, okay, phew. Like, that's good.
Weird
then
stuff.
after that...
I thought he was on drugs for a moment. I thought, like, the guy who shot his parents maybe accidentally gave Bruce Wayne some drugs. He was hallucinating a little bit. He started to float. That was some scary stuff, man. That was not a way you wanted to start a movie. But, yeah, the dream saved it.
And then we go to Metropolis. When the Man of Steel, that last fight scene, and how they tied in Bruce Wayne into that, I felt like that was super effective. That, honestly, that was my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I wish it wouldn't have stopped.
Just seeing, like, the little snippets in the trailer was enough to get me pumped for that, but just how much depth that they went into it. They introduced, what was his name, Steve, like the guy who worked for Bruce Wayne. Like, you had some connection there. You had the little girl that almost gets, like, squashed.
Yep.
And then just the different times that they integrated scenes from Man of Steel when he's fighting Zod into that. Superman crashing through the building right below him, and
that was good.
The laser beam taking down the building. That was done so well.
There was some good action.
And just the focus on Bruce Wayne too, like, shows how true of a hero he was. Like, everyone's running away as this building's collapsing, and he's running into the dust to, like, save everyone. And then he lifts that beam off of that guy. You're like, all right, this guy's got some strength to him.
Yeah. See, the tempo that they started out with in the movie was excellent. I mean, it really just it gave a lot of depth to why Bruce Wayne had this stigma against Superman, and it really showed the character's mentality, because, you know, Superman's coming from a different planet. He's not really as sophisticated in our society as Bruce Wayne, who knows the rules, who knows how things work. And, you know, Bruce Wayne, he's mad that Superman's abusing his power and that he has no limits. So, I mean, it really just shows how it sets up the movie. It really does.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
It shows the potential threat that Superman is.
Yeah.
I mean, he even tells Alfred, like, he brought the war to us, which is true. You get that viewpoint from Bruce Wayne and, like, just the people in general, and it's like these two beings come from a different planet and just start destroying the entire city. And then, like, some people were like, oh, he's a godly figure, you know, he's our savior. And then, like, you have the other people like Bruce Wayne who's just like, no, this guy's the problem, we gotta take him out. I feel like they didn't really wrap that up as well as they could have in the movie. That was one of my other bigger flaws with that. All of Bruce Wayne's motivations leading up to that, and then the moment where he's like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna stop what I'm doing now and help you out. I wanted them to, like, come back in the full circle and be like, okay, like, I helped you out now. I can respect you a little bit more, but I still have reserved thoughts about you. But obviously they couldn't do that because Superman died. But then his speech with Wonder Woman at his funeral saying, like, oh, he was a good man and I failed him in life, but I won't fail him in death and all that. And I was like, wait a minute, now you're completely changing your whole viewpoint just because he has a surrogate mother on Earth who had the same name as your mom. Name.
Okay, yes, yeah, there's like two big things that were huge, no, three big holes in the movie for me. That's one. Just because Batman and Superman had their mothers had the same name, they were best friends.
Yeah.
Like, instantaneously. So they could have avoided the whole fight if they would have just talked civilized, which Superman wanted to do.
Yeah, he does try before they start.
Oh man, my thoughts are starting to collect. See, this is one thing I think they failed with Batman, is he didn't have the super duper detective feel. Like, he did it a little bit, but I feel like he was lacking in his, like, bringing things together, because he honestly just wanted to beat the crap out of Superman. he was really irrational, but we know Batman to be the rational one. You know?
But at the same time, he's...
Please, defend Batman with the Batman shirt. We're going to have our own little Batman versus Superman here.
I will say this, though. I feel like he did show detective skills, but at the same time, that didn't derail me, though, because he had so much anger that was building up throughout this entire movie, and that he tried to do the detective stuff, and every time he would try to do that, something would happen that would make him even more angrier, and to get him more just out of it, to the point where he's like, alright, like, we're done with, like, the detective work, we're done just sitting on the sideline trying to collect the facts, like, it's time to take some action.
Yeah, we gotta take some action. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, and also, I mean, because everything's happening at such a fast rate, he's got so much emotion and passion against this, because the longer you wait, the more dangerous it gets with all these activities building up, these events building up. But also, there's that one scene where he mentions he wants to build his legacy. You know, that bad guys are like roots; they just keep popping up after you take them out. So it's almost like he was really focused on making a big change. And I know whenever you have a big thought like that, it sometimes causes you to lose focus. Yeah. It just seemed like he was trying to win that battle with brute force.
Yep.
When Batman's tactics usually rely not with brute force, but with mystery and all that fun stuff, his expertise. But I don't know, man. That was one loophole.
Yeah.
Was the whole ordeal of Batman and Superman. They could have probably just talked it out and figured it out, but they were very emotionally charged.
I mean, then you went to have your big fight, though.
I know. So that's why it's a movie. Superheroes, they have to be charged like that. Go head to head. The other thing, though, is Lex Luthor. How the heck did he find out Superman's identity and Superman's mother?
The ship.
The ship?
When he takes Zod to the ship, the computer tells him at one point, we have all the archives and information on all these different planets, and planet Krypton and all that, and he says, alright, show me, I want to learn. I feel like they didn't flat out like show a scene where the computer was like,
that would make
this
sense.
this is what Superman is, this is Kal-El, this was his parents and all that. I felt it was more or less like an insinuation, like, alright, he's got this information from the spaceship and from the computer.
That makes sense. Yeah, kind of using that as a lead.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's kind of where I took it from.
Yeah. Okay, that would make sense. The other loophole, though, and you know where I'm going.
Yep, I do.
Is Batman's dream?
The nightmare, yeah.
The nightmare with like Superman taking over the world with his army of bugs.
See,
nuclear bombs in the distance.
See, I really liked that scene. I really liked that scene up to that end point.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
The end, he wakes up, but then it's like he's still dreaming, and that dude comes out of nowhere, like out of like a portal,
almost looking like Ant-Man. Like his
a little bit
costume was not at all close to Ant-Man, but it had some similarities. I guess.
Know,
contradicting myself, but like red and kind of metallic look. I don't know.
And I'm like you. I have more of like a Marvel knowledge than a DC. I know there is a character called the Atom in the DC universe. I don't know much about him other than his name. I'm thinking just from the look he has in the movie, from like the look that I think he looks like from pictures that I've seen, I think that might be it. I'm not 100% sure though. But yeah, that whole scene it got confusing. Like I feel like I definitely need to see that scene again, at least that scene again, to kind of get some thoughts on that. But leading up to that, no, I loved that scene. I took it as like a futuristic dream, like what can happen, And the one thing that I didn't like at first, but then after thinking about it, Like, Batman was full out using guns and killing people.
Yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, that's a huge spoiler and a big change. Batman, he's definitely aged, experienced, and he is just done messing around. He's pulling out the big guns, literally.
I mean, out of that scene, he's using guns on, like, the Batmobile and, like, the Batwing and stuff. And he's definitely, like, exploding things next to people where you know it's going to kill him, but he's not full out, like, bam, you're dead. Whereas in this scene,
do you
he
think
was
he did
like...
a little bit, though, in his solo scene, saving the mom?
Let's talk about that scene after we wrap up the nightmare
The
scene.
nightmare scene.
That bothered me at first, but then after thinking about it, I was like, alright, this is a futuristic take. This is, like, worst come to worst. Like, Superman wouldn't have, like, soldiers that are worshipping him regularly. Yeah. Batman usually doesn't use guns to kill people, but I feel like in that scene, that possible future, it was to the point where these people that normally wouldn't do these things are, like, pushed to that edge where they gotta do it. Like, he sees his soldiers die, and then that's when he's like, no! And rages out. And rages out and starts, like, using the guns. And he's not using guns throughout the whole scene. He's more or less beating up people and using guns sporadically. But at the same time, I was like, all right, I'm gonna tell myself that to make myself feel better about that.
Do what you gotta do.
But yeah, that was again, that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie too. Was that nightmare scene? I just thought that it was so cool to dive into that kind of perspective, that possible future. You mentioned when he uses the gun to save the mom.
Yeah, okay. First, that scene shows a lot of potential of what a solo Batman movie could be. I loved it. It was great.
I loved it too. I thought the action was a little bit too much on the shaky cam. There were some shots where I was like, I can't really see what you're doing. Just hold it steady so I can see, oh, he's like slamming this guy down on the ground, instead of being like, oh, we gotta move with him, you know. And
there were some interesting filming methods in this movie. A lot of slow motion.
That's Zack Snyder though. That's always been a style.
Okay.
You think of 300.
Yeah,
that movie
true.
is all
yeah.
slow motion.
That's
like
true.
that.
Yeah. Well, he definitely follows that. So, but I like the scene. I thought it was really good how they really just implemented Batman's skill. You know, his technique of fighting. He knows, like, all the martial arts, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But also, he's human. And those other guys, just regular, you know, mugger dudes, special force guys.
Yeah.
You know.
But they're humans too.
They're humans too, and they can actually do some damage on Batman. But he's so well skilled, he can, you know, outmaster them all. But they really do a good job just balancing that, and I thought that was pretty good. That was a pretty good scene.
And the way that scene ends, when he shoots the flamethrower on the back of that guy, and like he blows up, and he uses the gun. The guy says, "I'll do it. I'll shoot her," and he goes, "I believe you."
I believe you.
That's like inspired from a scene in The Dark Knight Returns too, which I was glad to see that, because there's a scene in that book where a mugger's got this lady with a gun, and he's like, "Get back, I'll shoot you," and Batman's got a gun from one of the other thugs, and he says, "I believe you," and shoots the guy out the window.
Yeah.
And like that's how that ends. The one thing that I was really disappointed with that they didn't do in the book, when he beats Superman, he says this line that's like, I want you to always remember this. I want you to remember, like, my hand at your throat. I want you to remember that I'm the man who beat you.
Yeah,
I'm a man who beat you.
I'm a man.
Like, I was waiting for that line or some kind of variation of that line. It didn't happen. That was one thing I was disappointed that they just didn't do.
Yeah, same. You know, at first I thought maybe they would replace that with the scar, because, you know, he slits Superman's cheek with Kryptonite spear, and I thought, okay, maybe that they're going to carry that scar on in the later films.
Oh yeah.
As a remembrance, a reminder that Batman was able to give him a scar. You know, he was able to defeat him. So, but as you know, like the scene where he gets literally nuked his face regenerates.
Yeah.
There goes a scar that Batman worked so hard to fight, and put on. But yeah, I thought they missed out on that too. I think they should have done something like that. Definitely.
Finally, you want to talk about Lex Luthor a
No,
little bit more?
I don't. That's the thing. I don't want to talk about him. I don't know. That actor, to me, he doesn't fit the bill. I have a stigma against him. I have a bias against him. I never really enjoyed his work in cinema. I know a lot of people do, and that's fine. Me personally, I don't really connect with that actor. But
yeah, I agree. He was definitely too spindly to be Lex Luthor. As I was watching this movie and I'm thinking about it, I was like, this would work a whole lot better if this was a different character. Like, I don't know what character, but if you took the name Lex Luthor off and you had just Jesse Eisenberg being a character that would fit that persona,
right,
that would work.
Yeah.
But the scene towards the end when he was pretty much like, yeah, I'm controlling you, Superman, I'm going to make you kill Batman and do this thing to show you to the world, that was like the one scene where I was like, alright, you are acting like Lex Luthor.
I noticed that from you. Your response is you're like, yeah, I like this.
I was like, this is how Lex Luthor would act in Superman in general. And then that scene in the prison cell when Batman comes.
Oh,
I was like, alright, this is Lex Luthor too. But then when he leaves and he's like screaming, like he knows about you, like that was definitely like a dark seed, I think, nod. But at the same time, I was like, you're going back to like the weird, crazy guy that I didn't like throughout this whole movie.
Totally agree.
Like those two scenes up to that point, I was like, alright, if that's how it's gonna be, if you are weird in the beginning and now you're transforming into this character. And after he gets his head shaved, I was like, alright, maybe he's just going to be like the serious...
Yeah, like maturing.
Mature Lex Luthor that we want and that we like. But then when he was like, like screaming in the jail cell, I was like, oh, no, never mind. He
was just a stringy person. Stringy. I don't know what that means, but it's like...
I want to see him... I feel like they could pull a Batman v Superman with him, though. Like they do with Man of Steel. Listen to the fans, to their comments, because I feel like a lot of people are going to feel this way too, and then fix it in the next Superman movie.
Yeah. Well, they
have him work out, buff out a little bit more.
Yeah, he needs to get some mass. That guy
chill him out a little
some
bit.
Protein or something.
Chill him out a little bit. Have him be like he was in those two scenes, and then we'll have.
You've got a Lex Luthor to fear.
And yeah, I feel like he could then pull it off, but you got to work up to that point.
Maybe that's what they're doing, because right now he literally acts like some rich kid who spent all his time in books, in psychology, just like these, I don't know, this weird, messed up, different ideologies and things like that. He tries to force his way with language on people, and he just acts all over the wall. Kind of like I am right now, and I just don't connect with it. He's not a mad genius. He acts like a rich kid.
They showed in the movie like steps to get to the Lex Luthor that we want, and that's what I was saying. Like especially in those last two scenes, like he was acting more like the Lex Luthor that we want. But even like when he's in the ship and he's having like the computer like, all right, teach me. All those scenes leading up to that, I was like, all right, maybe that's what they're doing. They're building him up. But then when he had that breakdown screaming at Batman, at the end of that last scene that we see him in, I was like, that's where it lost me. I was like, maybe they're not doing that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. It's interesting, though. Definitely interesting.
Final thoughts on the movie in general? Final thoughts? Anything else that you want to say that we haven't talked about?
Avengers 2 looks great. There we go. We should talk about the trailers for a moment. Trailers are always a fun thing at movies.
How they showed all Marvel trailers before Batman?
They did show Suicide Squad, which looks fantastic.
That was true.
Yeah.
That was true. But they showed Captain America Civil War and X-Men. Two Marvel movies, and then they showed Suicide Squad, and I think that was it.
I think that was it. Yeah.
They didn't show too many trailers.
All super. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was surprised about that. it started pretty quickly. But I just gotta say, Suicide Squad, like I mentioned to you in the theater, I really think if DC wants to, really get this universe going, and not to the same level as Marvel, it's going to take a long time to do that if they can ever catch up. But if they want to even start something similar, I think Suicide Squad and variations like that, movies like that, are really going to propel it, because those side stories, those characters, a lot of fans are really interested in those people, and I think that's a really good idea on their part, because Marvel really focusing on your cliched top comic book heroes, but DC, they can really take the scene if they look at these auxiliary characters, the secondary characters, and develop their stories. Because DC going with their big top dogs, Marvel with their big top dogs, it's the same thing, just different brands, different characters. But if they go with the secondary characters, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of cool things they can do, like Suicide Squad. I think that's just such an interesting storyline. So I think we got that going for them.
My final thoughts on Batman v Superman, just to bring it back around full circle. Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I really liked it. I felt like it was definitely a big step up from Man of Steel. I loved Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. I felt like he was a perfect Bruce Wayne. Like you mentioned a little bit in our non-spoiler video, he definitely had that charm and that persona from the animated series that we all love.
Yeah.
He was definitely the best Bruce Wayne I think we've ever had on screen.
Yeah.
We didn't have a whole lot of just Batman. There was a lot of Bruce Wayne, not a lot of Batman, I felt like, but it was enough to make me interested in seeing more. And just the little nods and just the things that they were showing from like the Batman, I feel like it would be really cool if for the first solo movie they went back a little bit. They showed the Robin costume. They showed Wayne Manor that's burnt up. He's in that weird glass house thing on the lake, but they show like the remains of Wayne Manor, and when he's talking about his family's legacy, he's in like the burnt remains of his building. Going back and showing us that. Like usually I'm like, I like the mystery behind it, but this is like the one time where I'm like, I want to know. Go back and show me that. And just
they did a good job with that.
Yeah, just everything that we saw from Ben Affleck, I'm confident that even as a director of a solo Batman movie, he could make an incredible Batman movie. Superman, like I mentioned before, I really liked him in this movie. I felt like he was very true to the character. I felt like he showed a lot of emotion. They did a great job showing his side compared to Batman's and making you understand where these two characters are at. I liked Wonder Woman. I felt like she was in enough of the movie.
She was wonderful.
It was enough to get us excited to want to see her solo movie. I felt like Gal Gadot, a lot of people were a little skeptical on how she'd be as Wonder Woman. I thought she was great. I liked her out of the costume. I liked her in the costume.
You know who she resembles? Olivia Munn. I think they look really similar. Like they could be sisters.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's probably because of the X-Men movie. That's probably why I was thinking that during the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? That looks like Olivia Munn. Aaron Rodgers is going to pop up in here. But what do you think of Lois Lane? How'd she do? She was in the movie a lot.
Yes,
like a lot.
She was better in this movie. Man of Steel. One of my biggest problems. I talked about it in my review, but then when I went to edit it, like somehow that clip got lost. So I didn't really talk about her in that, like in the video part. In Man of Steel, she was only there to be a damsel in distress.
Yeah.
And to be like, Superman. And that was her whole role.
Superman,
that was her whole role in that movie. This movie, they actually went a little bit deeper into her character. They showed a little bit more of her being like an actual journalist.
Right.
And digging into things instead of just like going and looking and not really doing a whole lot of her job. They definitely gave us more from Lawrence Fishburne too, being like the head editor at
He was great.
the Daily Planet,
Yep.
and just being kind of like a jerk the whole time. But it fit his character. It fit his character.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, I felt like they definitely gave more to her character than they did in Man of Steel. My big flaw with this movie, well, not big flaw. My other flaw that I noticed with this movie that we haven't talked about yet. A lot of people that I talked to, spoiler free, before I saw this, said that, because I asked them about the runtime, I was like, does it feel like a long movie? Like watching it, a lot of people are like, no, like I was into it the whole time. Like the beginning, like that first like half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever, I was hooked into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there was a lot of
felt like 10 minutes.
There was a lot of development, a lot of exposition that they needed in the movie, but I felt like after that, like that chunk felt a little long to me. There was a lot of just story building
out a little bit
and developing, and not a lot going on besides that. And that's when I started to notice that this is kind of going on for a while.
Right.
So I did feel like the pacing of that was a little. I felt the time. I felt that it was a longer movie, but I enjoyed the movie overall. I thought that it was, like I said, I felt like it was definitely a step up from Man of Steel. It was definitely a good step in the right direction, and I'm excited for DC movies, the future DC movies. I'm excited to see where they go with this now.
What do you think about Aquaman's cameo?
They showed him for a couple seconds. They showed the Flash. Cyborg was interesting.
They showed who? The Flash?
Yeah.
What? How did I miss that?
That was the security footage in the gas station. The robber. And they showed that one guy at the freezers getting the milk.
Yeah.
That was the Flash.
That was the Flash, duh. Yeah.
The Cyborg was interesting. I don't know really anything about that character. And I felt like that was showing us a little bit of his origin, teasing a little bit of that. And I found that really interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting indeed. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I liked the movie. I felt like it was really good. I kind of want to see it again, maybe in IMAX.
Ooh, that's a movie to see in IMAX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man of Steel, definitely just the effects, the action. The theater we went to was pretty big. But
it was pretty big, yeah.
IMAX would definitely complement that very well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I felt like it was a good movie. I recommend you seeing it in theaters.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
If you're on the fence on whether or not you want to see it right away or you want to wait, I would see this movie. I would go right away.
Movie.
Yeah,
it's a fun one. Definitely, it's got a lot to it. A little scattered, but overall, it's a great movie. That's what I would say. All
right, I think this is where we're gonna wrap it up. I'd like to thank Jas for coming to see this movie with me and doing these videos. I had a lot of fun doing it. Did you have fun doing this stuff?
Brian, I loved it. It makes me want to start a YouTube video page. Yeah, so it was a blast. I mean, what honor to be the first guest on the Stoff's YouTube page video thing. Boom. I mean, it's such an honor. So I have to thank you, Brian, the host. You didn't pay for the tickets, though.
I paid for my ticket.
Not mine. Or the jelly beans. By the way,
I gave you a ride. He
gave me a ride. He paid for the gas. All right, I'll accept that. But you know what, man? The worst part about the movie is myself. I ate almost a whole bag of jelly beans. That's a lot of jelly beans. And my wife is a dental hygienist.
Well, I mean,
all that sugar.
Just gotta have practice somehow.
That's true. That's a good way to put it.
All right, well, thanks again.
3 minutes.
Thanks again for joining me in these videos. I'm definitely going to have you on sometime soon. You're always welcome on this channel. So, with that, if you liked this video, if you liked what you saw, please subscribe. Check out my other videos. Jas, you can see him on Guard2 Productions, and you can see him right here on this channel. If you want him to come back, let me know in the comments. Whether or not you want him to or not, he's going to be appearing more often. So,
Brian, you know, I just want to mention, just so we have it on video footage, you posted a video saying that you would send someone a Valentine's. You would send anyone who sent or commented on your video a Valentine's. I commented on your video, and I have yet to get a Valentine's.
You did.
You gotta follow through, man.
You did. You know what?
No, Jason!
Happy Valentine's.
My wife's right over there, man.
It wasn't on the lips.
Hey,
so.
she's gotta be out of the room if you wanna do that stuff.
Alright. It got weird, but that's where we're gonna end it.
That's what happens on the stop.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.